A soft breeze drifted through the quiet, empty park, swirling the dry leaves into small whirlwinds beneath a sky that hung heavy with stormy clouds. Luca, a 3-year-old boy who had never seen the world, played peacefully near his mother. The park, bordered by a thick forest, seemed the perfect spot for a serene afternoon. But in the blink of an eye, everything shifted. Luca's mother, distracted by a phone call, let her gaze drop for just a moment. When she lifted her eyes again, Luca was gone. Panic seized her voice, shaking it to its core. "Luca, where are you?" The little boy, intrigued by a sound in the distance, had wandered off among the trees, unaware of the danger that loomed. Alone, he began to feel the emptiness around him. His heart raced in his chest as he called out, "Mom, help!" But the thick trees swallowed his cries, leaving them lost in the sound of rustling leaves and a howling wind. Luca had no sense of direction, no way to know which way to go. Fear clung to him like a shadow, his hands stretching out into nothingness. Just when it seemed like the boy might be lost forever, an unexpected presence appeared. A stray dog, with rough fur and wise, dark eyes, emerged from behind a bush. It was thin, but its every movement spoke of purpose, of a determination that felt strange and compelling. The dog observed Luca as if it understood the boy's panic. It let out a single bark, low and firm. Luca froze. There was something in that bark, something not threatening, but reassuring, as if the dog was there to help. The animal approached slowly, brushing its nose against Luca's hand. The boy felt an unusual sense of comfort. "Who are you?" Luca whispered. The meeting between the boy and the dog was the beginning of something extraordinary. While Luca's mother desperately searched for him, the dog seemed to know exactly what to do. It had made Luca's fate its own. Luca, still disoriented, felt the warmth of the dog's breath near his hand. Though he couldn't see it, he could feel the dog's presence, protective, comforting. The dog whined softly, as though inviting Luca to follow. Somehow, the boy understood. "Do you want to help me?" Luca's voice trembled. The dog barked again, this time with a sense of certainty, and began walking slowly, pausing every few steps to make sure Luca was following. The boy reached out, trusting in the dog's guidance, and walked behind the sound of its paws on the earth. Meanwhile, Luca's mother, Francesca, was moving frantically through the park, calling his name. Her heart felt like it was in pieces. Each passing moment seemed to stretch on endlessly. More people had joined in her search, but no one had seen her son. Then the dog stopped, its body rigid. A rustling came from the underbrush, a sharp crack of breaking branches. Luca, unaware of the danger, kept walking, but the dog stepped between him and the sound, growling softly. Out of the trees, a large deer suddenly appeared, frozen for a heartbeat before darting away, vanishing into the underbrush. The dog remained still, watching, until it was certain the danger had passed. Then it turned back to Luca, licking his hand as if to reassure him. "What was that?" Luca asked, sensing the dog had protected him. The dog didn't respond but nudged Luca gently, guiding him once more. One of the searchers noticed fresh footprints in the soft earth, and with a spark of hope, followed them. Francesca's heart leaped. "Luca, are you there?" she called, her voice barely more than a sob. The dog, hearing her cry, stopped and barked loudly, a sound that seemed to answer her call. "Mom!" Luca cried, recognizing the sound of her voice, but they weren't out of danger yet. Between Luca and Francesca lay a swift, dangerous stream. Its waters churned from recent rains. Luca, too close to the edge, had no idea. The dog saw the danger immediately, rushing to put itself between the boy and the water, barking loudly to catch Francesca's attention. Francesca, hearing the bark, rushed toward the sound, just in time to see the dog gently nudge Luca back from the water's edge. She swept him into her arms, her hands shaking, her eyes brimming with tears. "Thank God, Luca, you're safe." She turned toward the dog, which was watching them with a quiet, satisfied look. Francesca knelt down, reaching out to it. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know who you are, but you saved my child." The dog met her gaze, its tail flicking once, but its posture remained distant, as though it knew its task wasn't yet finished. Francesca, still kneeling beside Luca, kept her eyes on the dog, a sense of awe creeping into her heart. This wasn't just any stray animal. This was something else, a protector, a guardian, sent to keep her son safe. As she comforted Luca, the dog's ears perked up. It jumped to its feet, alert. A rustling from ahead made Francesca stiffen, her protective instincts flaring. "What is it?" she whispered, clutching Luca closer. The dog moved into position, its body taut with tension. It barked loudly, the sound reverberating through the trees. Francesca, instinctively tightening her grip on Luca, started to move, following the dog as it led them toward safety. The forest paths seemed to get darker, more oppressive, and Francesca began to hear footsteps behind them, footsteps that didn't belong to the dog. She turned, but saw nothing beyond the thick trees. The dog, however, kept its stance, growling softly, protective as ever. "Let's move quickly," she whispered, urging herself to keep going. Out of the shadows stepped a man, a hunter, his rifle slung over his shoulder. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" he asked, his voice oddly neutral, unreadable. Francesca froze, her heart pounding. "Yes, we're just trying to leave the park," she answered, her voice shaky. The hunter eyed her for a long moment, his gaze falling to the dog. "Is that your dog?" he asked, his tone suspicious. Francesca hesitated. "No, but it saved my son." The hunter's smile was faint, but it lacked warmth. "Odd to see a dog like that around here. Could come in handy." The dog, sensing something was wrong, stepped in front of Francesca and Luca, growling fiercely. The hunter took a step back, surprised by the dog's protective stance. "I didn't mean any harm," he said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. But Francesca didn't trust him. The dog kept them moving forward, guiding them toward the safety of the park's edge. Francesca, growing more confident, followed the dog's lead. Luca, calm now in her arms, whispered, "Mom, he's an angel." Luca's words struck a deep chord in Francesca's heart. How could an abandoned animal show so much courage, so much intelligence? Moments later, they emerged onto a more open path, and in the distance the lights of the park's exit shimmered. Francesca looked down at the dog and, kneeling beside it, spoke softly. "I don't know who you are or where you came from, but we owe you everything. Thank you." The dog barked softly, its tail wagging gently, just as Francesca thought their ordeal was over. Luca knelt down beside him, reaching out his small hands toward the dog. The animal moved closer, allowing Luca to stroke its muzzle. A clear, joyful laugh escaped Luca, filling the tense afternoon with a brief moment of lightness. "Can I keep him, Mom? He's my angel." Francesca hesitated for a heartbeat, but deep down she already knew the answer. This wasn't just some stray. This dog had become a part of their family. Having finally left the forest behind, Francesca, Luca, and the dog made their way toward the main road that led to the parking lot. The setting sun bathed the path in soft, golden light, offering them a sense of relief. But that peace was short-lived. The dog abruptly stopped, its ears pricking up. It began barking toward the other side of the road, its body stiff with alertness. Francesca, who had just begun to let her guard down, felt a shiver run down her spine. "What's going on, friend?" she murmured, following the dog's gaze. From behind a bush, another figure emerged. It was the same hunter from earlier, but now his expression had changed. He had put down his rifle, though he still held a small flashlight, the beam pointed directly at them. "Ma'am, I didn't mean to scare you earlier," he said in a calm, though tense voice. "That dog, does it belong to someone?" Francesca stood up, holding Luca's hand tightly. "I don't know. It saved my son." The hunter took a step forward, his gaze fixed on the dog. "This is no ordinary dog. I've never seen one like him around here, but he looks trained. He might have escaped from somewhere special, or maybe he's someone's dog, someone who's searching for him." Francesca's heart sank. What if this dog wasn't truly a stray? What if he had a family, someone out there looking for him? But before she could speak, the dog growled once more, stepping protectively between her and the hunter. The man froze, raising his hands in an attempt to calm the dog. All right. I don't mean any harm," he said, his smile a little uncertain. Francesca relaxed, but the hunter's next words sent a chill down her spine. "You know," he began, "a few months ago, a truck carrying animals had an accident nearby. Some of those dogs escaped, and they say one of them was special, trained for rescue missions." Francesca's breath caught in her throat. Could it be true? Had this dog been part of that accident, a hero who had somehow escaped? She looked at the dog, still calm, yet always watchful, and the thought gnawed at her. "How do you know that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The hunter shrugged. "I know because I work with a rescue team. I didn't mean to alarm you, but when I saw that dog, well, he seemed familiar." Francesca was lost in thought, but Luca was unwavering. "He didn't escape, Mom. He's here for us. He's my angel." As they spoke, a car slowly approached from behind. Headlights illuminated the scene, and Francesca noticed a man inside the car, his eyes scanning the area as though searching for something. The dog turned toward the car and barked loudly. The vehicle pulled over and the window rolled down. "That's Max," the man called out, his voice filled with surprise. Francesca looked at him in confusion. "Max? You know him?" "Yes. That's the dog I lost during that accident the hunter mentioned. He's a trained rescue dog, but I haven't been able to find him since the crash." The dog approached the car slowly, his eyes focused on the man. But instead of jumping in or immediately recognizing him, the dog returned to Luca's side, positioning himself beside the boy, as if to protect him. The man stepped out of the car, kneeling down to try to catch the dog's attention. "Max, it's me. Come home." The dog regarded him but stayed close to Luca. Francesca's heart was torn. If this dog truly belonged to the man, he had every right to take him back. But the bond between the dog and Luca was undeniable. "I don't know," Francesca said softly, looking down at the dog. "He saved my son. Maybe he's here for a reason." The parking lot, now bathed in the warm hues of evening, became the setting for a quiet but emotional standoff. Francesca, the man claiming to be the dog's owner, and the hunter were all standing still, while the dog remained loyally by Luca's side, as though to show where his place was. Luca, with his innocent certainty, reached out his hand toward the dog and said, "You'll stay with me, right? Don't go away." Francesca watched the scene unfold, her heart heavy. She couldn't ignore the deep connection the dog had formed with Luca, but at the same time, the man before her seemed to care for the dog too. "I don't want to cause any problems," the man said softly, his voice tinged with sadness. "Max is a trained dog, always special. If he's chosen to stay with your son, it's for a reason. But I want you to understand, he's not just any stray. I've been searching for him since he disappeared." Francesca felt torn. The dog, who had been eyeing the man intently, seemed conflicted as well. For a brief moment, he approached the man, sniffing him before barking softly, almost as if to acknowledge him. But then, just as quickly, he returned to Luca's side, sitting beside the boy as if to say, "My mission is here now." The hunter, who had remained silent up until that point, offered his perspective. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "animals have an extraordinary sense of instinct. Max has chosen to stay with this boy, perhaps because he knows he's needed here. But it's true that if he's really a trained dog, he could help many others." Those words resonated deeply with Francesca. She knelt beside the dog, her fingers brushing through his fur. "You're really a hero, you know that? But I don't know what the right thing to do is for you." Luca's voice interrupted the moment as he wrapped his arms tightly around the dog. "Mom, he doesn't want to leave. He saved me. He's my friend." Seeing the bond between Luca and the dog, the man stepped back, his expression softening. "Maybe we can find a solution," he suggested, looking at Francesca. "I could leave him with you for a while and come back to visit him. It's clear that right now he feels his place is here." Francesca was taken aback by his offer. She hadn't expected the man to be willing to part with the dog even temporarily. "That would be wonderful," she said, a wave of relief washing over her. "I don't want to take something precious from you, but this dog has done so much for us today. We can't just let him go." The man nodded slowly. "Max has always been an extraordinary animal," the man said, his voice calm but filled with a quiet intensity. "If he's chosen you, there's a reason, but I'd just like to be able to see him again." In the moments that followed, the hunter stepped away to give them space, and Luca continued to play with the dog in the parking lot. The child's laughter filled the air as he stroked Max's fur, his earlier fears forgotten. Francesca watched the scene with a mix of joy and relief. The dog hadn't just saved Luca, he had brought a sense of hope and protection into their lives. Maybe he's truly a gift, she thought to herself. The man who claimed to be Max's owner returned, this time with a more peaceful smile. "I'll leave you my number," he said, handing her a slip of paper. "If you need help with him, call me, but promise me you'll take care of him like he deserves." Francesca nodded, her heart heavy with gratitude. "You can count on it. We'll do everything we can for him." In the days that followed, Francesca and Luca welcomed Max into their daily lives. The dog quickly adapted, showing not only affection but remarkable intelligence. He seemed to bond with them in ways that went beyond the ordinary, but not everything was as peaceful as it seemed. One evening, as Francesca tucked Luca into bed, she noticed Max acting strangely. The dog was pacing in front of the living room window, barking in an unsettling manner. Curious, Francesca pulled back the curtains but saw nothing outside. "What's wrong, Max?" she asked softly, reaching out to calm him. Max stopped barking, but his eyes remained fixed on a spot in the darkness, his body rigid. It was as if he sensed something Francesca couldn't perceive. Despite her growing unease, she brushed it off, thinking it was just some nerves. But the next morning, while walking Luca to daycare, she noticed a man acting suspiciously, hanging back just far enough to avoid attention. Max, however, had noticed him immediately. "Stay close to me," Francesca whispered, pulling Luca a little closer to her. The dog's stance shifted. His posture became alert, his eyes never leaving the man. That was when Francesca realized Max was more than a guardian for her son. Later that evening, Francesca couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She decided to call the man who had claimed to be Max's owner, telling him about the encounter with the suspicious man and the dog's strange behavior. "Do you think someone's trying to take him back?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "I'm not sure," the man replied, his tone tense. "But it's possible. Max isn't just any dog. If someone knows how special he is, they might want him for less noble purposes." Francesca's heart sank at the thought. She didn't want to imagine anyone trying to harm Max, especially now that he had become part of their family. "I'll keep an eye out," she said, her voice steady despite the fear creeping in. "But I won't let anyone take him away." The hunter they had met in the park contacted her the next day. After hearing about the situation, he offered his assistance. "I know how to track suspicious people," he said seriously. "If that man is trying to steal Max, we can find out." Though hesitant, Francesca decided to trust him, especially since Max seemed comfortable around the hunter, a sign that perhaps his presence was reassuring. That night, Francesca was jolted awake by a noise outside the door. Her heart pounded as she crept toward the door to investigate. Max was already there, standing guard, his low growl vibrating through the silence. Peering through the peephole, Francesca saw a shadowy figure trying to force the lock. "Who's there?" she called out, trying to stay calm. The figure froze, then quickly retreated into the darkness. Max barked furiously, scratching at the door as though trying to chase the intruder away. Francesca immediately called the hunter. "This is serious," he said on the phone. "You need to file a report and set up security cameras. It'll help protect Max." Francesca nodded, a mix of fear and determination swelling inside her. She wouldn't let anyone harm her family or the dog that had saved her son. Despite the tension, Max seemed more protective than ever. He remained close to Luca, his eyes scanning every movement, always on alert. For Luca, Max was a constant source of comfort. "Max is my hero," Luca would often say, gently petting the dog. Francesca couldn't deny the bond between her son and Max. It was powerful and unbreakable. It was clear now. Max would give his life to protect them. The next morning, Francesca woke up with a sense of unease she couldn't shake. The events of the previous night lingered in her mind. Looking out the window, she saw Max sitting on the lawn, his gaze fixed on the edge of their garden. He was still, watchful, waiting for something, or someone. As she prepared breakfast for Luca, a familiar car pulled up outside. It was the hunter, his serious expression making Francesca's stomach churn with anxiety. He stepped out of the car, holding some documents and an electronic device. "I've done some research," he said, his tone deliberate as he approached. "And I think there are more people involved in this situation." Francesca's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" The hunter explained that he had traced suspicious activities in the area. The man they had seen in the park was part of an organization attempting to recover trained animals to sell them illegally. Max, with his extraordinary abilities, was likely one of their main targets. They must have learned about the truck accident, he added, and now they were desperately searching for him. Francesca felt a cold shiver run down her spine. "What can we do to protect him?" "First," the hunter replied, "I've installed security cameras around the house." He showed her the device he had brought. "And we need to keep a close watch on Max. Never leave him alone." That evening, after putting Luca to bed, Francesca sat with Max by her side, lost in thought. She had grown so close to him, and seeing him protect Luca gave her a sense of security she hadn't felt in years. But now, with the threat looming, she couldn't help but wonder if staying with them was the right thing for Max. He deserved a peaceful life, free from danger. "What should I do, Max?" she murmured, her fingers gently brushing through his fur. In response, Max laid his head on her lap, looking up at her with calm, reassuring eyes, as if to say that his place was right here with them. The next day, the man who had claimed to be Max's owner came to visit again. He brought with him documents that proved Max had been trained as a rescue dog for an international rescue team. "These dogs are extraordinary," the man explained. "They're specially trained to help in emergency situations, and Max is one of the best we've ever had. But if you want to keep him, I won't stop you. It seems he's found a new mission with you." Francesca stood silent for a moment, torn between the two worlds. On one hand, she knew that Max had a gift that could save lives, but on the other, the bond between the dog and Luca had become inseparable. She couldn't imagine parting with him. "I need to think about it," she said softly, her voice tinged with indecision. That night, another shadow moved around the house. The cameras the hunter had installed caught the movement, and an alarm beeped softly in the house. Francesca's heart skipped a beat, and she stood quickly. Max was already in place, standing guard in front of the door. She watched the footage and saw two men, one of whom she recognized, the same man they had met in the park. They were approaching the house, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Francesca wasted no time. She called the hunter and the man who had claimed to be Max's owner. Both arrived quickly, but by the time they got to the house, the two men had vanished into the night. The next morning, Francesca knew she couldn't wait any longer. She sat down with Luca, explaining that Max was special and that there were people who wanted to take him away, but no matter what, they couldn't let that happen. Luca's face crumpled, his eyes filled with confusion and sadness. "Max is my friend," he said, tears welling up. Francesca hugged him tightly. "I know, sweetheart. We'll do everything we can to protect him. But it might mean we have to keep him safe, even if that means letting him go for a while." Max watched the exchange, his eyes soft and understanding. He slowly approached Luca, licking his hand, and the boy wrapped his arms around him even tighter. That night, the tension in the air was palpable. Max was unusually vigilant. His eyes never strayed from the windows, his muscles coiled in anticipation. Francesca sat next to him, feeling a sense of unease wash over her. The air felt too still, too heavy with something she couldn't put her finger on. Around midnight, a sound broke the silence, a branch snapping underfoot near the side of the house. Max was on his feet in an instant, barking with a ferocity that sent chills through Francesca. She quickly checked the security cameras, her heart racing. On the screen, 3 figures were creeping toward the back of the house, one carrying a crowbar. Francesca's breath caught in her throat. She grabbed her phone and quickly dialed the hunter, her voice shaky as she whispered, "They're trying to break in." "Stay calm," the hunter replied, his voice steady. "Lock the door and don't open it. I'm on my way." Max was already in position, guarding the back door with a stance that left no room for hesitation. Francesca scooped Luca into her arms and hurried to the inner room, locking the door behind them. "Don't worry, sweetheart," she said softly, trying to keep her own fear at bay. "Max will protect us." As the men attempted to force open the door, the sound of the crowbar scraping against the lock echoed through the house. Max, ready for action, let out another fierce bark, his body tense and alert. The intruders hesitated for just a moment, and that's when Max made his move. He launched himself toward the door with a force that startled the men, knocking one to the ground with a deep growl. The other 2 men reeled back, surprised by the dog's sudden attack. Just as the tension reached its peak, the sound of sirens pierced the air. The hunter arrived with the police in tow, having been alerted. The intruders tried to flee, but they were quickly caught and arrested. Francesca, clutching Luca tightly, watched the scene unfold from the window. Max stayed by the door, still poised for protection, his body rigid as if waiting for another threat to emerge. "It's incredible," one of the officers said, turning to the hunter. "This dog practically stopped the attack on his own." After the men were arrested, the police found documents in their backpacks. The files contained detailed information about Max's training. One of the men confessed that they had been trying to retrieve Max to sell him to an organization that used trained animals for illegal and unethical purposes. The hunter, along with Max's supposed owner, examined the documents, their expressions darkening. These men were part of an international animal trafficking network, the hunter explained. Max wasn't just a rescue dog. He was one of the most valuable animals we've ever trained. Francesca felt sick at the thought that Max, her loyal protector, had been seen as nothing more than a high-value asset to these people. She looked at the dog, who had returned to Luca's side, licking his face gently as if to reassure him. "It doesn't matter what those documents say," Francesca said firmly. "Max is part of our family now." Even though the immediate danger seemed to have passed, the hunter cautioned Francesca that the threat was far from over. "If this is part of a larger operation, they might come back," he said seriously. "We need to stay alert." Francesca nodded, but the thought of losing Max made her stomach turn. She couldn't let that happen, not after everything they had been through. Over the next few days, Francesca took extra precautions. Security cameras were added, and a more advanced alarm system was installed. Max continued to stand guard, but he was also his sweet, affectionate self around Luca, who trusted him completely. One evening, as Luca sat petting Max before bed, he said, "Mom, Max is always here to protect us. I think he'll always be with us." Francesca smiled, her heart full of warmth and love. "Yes, sweetheart," she said softly. "Max will always be with us." But despite all their efforts to secure the house, the group responsible for the previous attacks wasn't done. One day, 2 vehicles suddenly blocked the road as the hunter and his team were returning. Armed men stepped out, ready for another confrontation. Max, sensing the danger, began barking furiously inside the vehicle. The hunter, calm but resolute, stepped out with his hands raised. "I don't know what you want," he said, his voice steady, "but you're not getting this dog." One of the men, clearly the leader, advanced with a threatening look. "That dog doesn't belong to you," he sneered. "He's ours, and we'll take him back by force if necessary." As the leader spoke, the hunter noticed another man moving toward the vehicle. Max reacted instantly, slamming his paws into the half-open window, drawing attention to himself. With remarkable speed, Max leapt out of the vehicle and charged at one of the men, knocking him down with astounding strength. The hunter didn't waste a second. He confronted the leader directly, while Max continued to fend off anyone who came too close. Despite being outnumbered, Max's determination and courage were undeniable. Just as the situation seemed to spiral out of control, sirens rang out in the distance. The police, alerted by the hunter, arrived just in time, quickly neutralizing the threat. The men were arrested, but not before the leader made one final threat. "This isn't over," he spat. "We'll have that dog, no matter what." Exhausted but unyielding, Max returned to the hunter's side, his eyes still locked on the scene. After the confrontation ended, the hunter made a quick decision. Max had to return home immediately. This time, without any further interruptions, Max was escorted by the police. Together, they managed to complete the journey back home without incident. When the vehicle finally pulled up in front of Francesca's house, Luca ran outside, his face lighting up with excitement. "Max, you're back!" he shouted, his voice full of joy. Max wasted no time, leaping from the vehicle and charging toward Luca, barking happily. Francesca watched from the doorway, a feeling of relief washing over her. Max was home, and for the first time in what felt like forever, everything seemed possible again. That evening, as Max rested at the foot of Luca's bed, Francesca made a vow. "I'll never let anyone put us in danger again," she said, her voice firm. "Max is part of our family, and we'll do whatever it takes to protect him." The hunter nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "Now that we've caught some of the culprits, we can work on dismantling the entire network, but it'll take time. In the meantime, Max will be safe here." Francesca gently stroked Max's fur, her heart filled with immense gratitude for the extraordinary dog. She knew their lives had changed forever, but now she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The night was calm, the usual tension gone from the air. Max rested by Luca's bed, but his ears remained alert, ever ready to respond to any hint of danger. Though Francesca tried to sleep, her mind kept racing. Despite the arrests, the threat wasn't entirely gone. Around midnight, Max suddenly leaped to his feet, his low growl filling the room, alerting Francesca to the danger. She rushed to the window, her pulse quickening as she saw shadows moving stealthily across the garden. Someone had found them again. Francesca's heart skipped a beat. She grabbed her phone and called the hunter, her voice filled with urgency. Max, meanwhile, stood in front of the door, ready to protect the house once more. Then, with a loud crash, the living room window shattered, and two men crept inside. Max wasted no time. He launched himself at the first intruder, knocking him to the ground with surprising strength. The second man attempted to strike Max with an improvised weapon, but the dog swiftly dodged the blow and barked fiercely, drawing attention. Trembling, Francesca grabbed Luca and rushed them both to the inner room, just as she had during the previous attack. "Don't worry, sweetheart," she whispered, trying to calm Luca. "Max will protect us." Meanwhile, in the living room, Max kept his focus on the intruders. Though they had the advantage in numbers, the dog's bravery was undeniable. Every time one of the men moved closer, Max pushed them back with relentless determination. Then, a third man appeared, this time armed with a gun. Max froze, his gaze fixed on the weapon. The man raised the gun, aiming it at Max, but just as he did, the headlights of a car illuminated the room. The hunter and the police had arrived. Caught off guard, the intruders tried to flee but were quickly apprehended by the authorities. Max, clearly exhausted, positioned himself next to the hunter, his eyes scanning the room, ensuring everything was secure. One of the officers approached Francesca, offering reassurance. "It's over. We've got them." With tears in her eyes, Francesca emerged from the inner room, holding Luca tightly. She looked at Max and whispered, "You saved our family once again." Her voice filled with profound gratitude as she stroked him. The hunter walked over, holding one of the documents found on the intruders. "We've finally dismantled the entire network," he said. "Max played a key role. These men won't be a threat anymore." Francesca nodded, relief flooding her, though she was also overcome with emotion. She gazed at Max, now lying on the floor, breathing heavily, but looking satisfied. In the days that followed, Max's story spread throughout the community. Neighbors gathered to honor the dog's bravery, organizing a small ceremony in his honor. Luca, his face beaming with pride, prepared a drawing of Max, portraying him as a true hero. "He's our protector," Luca declared proudly. Francesca felt a deep sense of gratitude for the dog who had come into their lives so unexpectedly and had brought them strength, courage, and unconditional love. With the threat finally gone, Francesca and Luca were able to begin rebuilding their lives. Max, while still vigilant, seemed more relaxed, as though he knew the danger had passed. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the garden, Francesca stroked Max's fur and said, "You're more than a dog to us. You're family." Luca joined her, hugging Max. "And I'll always be your best friend," he added, smiling warmly. With the criminal network dismantled and the intruders arrested, Francesca's home returned to peace. Max, their tireless protector, resumed his life with them. But something had changed. His behavior was calmer now, as though he had finally understood that he was safe and truly belonged to this family. Luca, who had faced both fear and courage alongside his four-legged friend, never left Max's side. They were inseparable, and every day, their bond grew deeper. One morning, as they played together in the garden, Francesca watched them with a smile. The sun filtered through the trees, and the sound of Luca's laughter mixed with Max's happy barks. It was a scene she could never have imagined just a few months earlier, when their life had been so uncertain. A few weeks later, Francesca received an unexpected call from the hunter. "Francesca, they want to recognize Max's bravery. There's a ceremony organized by the local association to celebrate animals that have performed heroic acts. Max will be the guest of honor." Francesca was filled with pride and gratitude, knowing Max deserved the recognition. During the ceremony, Max received a special medal and a certificate for his bravery. The crowd cheered, and Luca, beaming with joy, held up Max's award for everyone to see. "Max is the best dog in the world," he declared, earning a round of applause from the crowd. Over time, Francesca was able to regain control of her life. The emotional scars from the past began to heal, thanks to the love and support of Luca and Max. One evening, as she sat beside Max on the sofa, she said softly, "I don't know how I would have managed without you. You've been our hero, but more than anything, you're part of our family." Max lifted his head, wagging his tail gently as if to acknowledge that he would always be there, watching over them. Max's story became an inspiration to many in the community. The courage and loyalty of a stray dog who had become the protector of a family showed everyone that love and determination could overcome even the greatest of challenges. Francesca shared their story at an event raising awareness for animal welfare and adoption. "Every animal has priceless value," she told the audience. "Max didn't just save our lives, he taught us what it truly means to love unconditionally." As the seasons passed, Francesca, Luca, and Max continued to live together, building happy memories and looking toward the future with hope. Max remained Luca's loyal companion, always by his side, protecting him and playing with him every day. One evening, as the sun set, Luca hugged Max and said, "Thank you for being my best friend. I love you, Max." Francesca, watching the scene unfold, felt her heart swell with gratitude. They had weathered difficult times, but together they had found the strength to overcome them. Max wasn't just a dog. He was the embodiment of their resilience and their love as a family. Max's story and the journey of Francesca and Luca is a powerful reminder of how animals can change our lives in the most profound ways. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment and share your thoughts. What would you do if an animal suddenly entered your life and changed it forever? Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories and leave a like to support our work. And remember, love and courage can be found in the most unexpected places. Thank you for listening to our story.